I want to draw attention for this information that is coming. Escaping from the prison is punishable with a maximum of 9 years imprisonment. Being involved during or after the prisoner has escaped is also punishable with a maximum of 4 years. That is all information I have at this moment that I can give away about this case. And I can say also there are 2 investigations going on. One, that is one is how to bring back Mr. Fortune in, and the other one is conducted by the national detective, how it was possible that Mr. Fortune has escaped.
Mr. Kiridango, I have a follow-up question there. I understood that the prison is grossly understaffed, that there is a number of prison guards on extended sick leave. Can you confirm this, and what is the prison or the ministry doing to recruit more prison guards?
At this moment, I can say it is true that the prison is understaffed. At this moment, I am busy with someone to come to sustain the management from the prison about recruiting new workers, guards. I cannot say anything because it is a wish, but it is not going on at this moment. I know that we need them, but if I say we are busy with that, that is not true.
Final question, Bibi.
I turn to Minister Lee. Minister Lee, you gave some information about the first Zika case. If I remember clearly, I think it was last week, you mentioned that this person had traveled. Today, you said a visitation was done at the home of the person, and there were a number of breeding sites. Can you, at this point, tell me if the preventative service ruled out that this person may have caught Zika abroad or directly in her home?
I think it's important to be clear. So no, they have not identified exactly where she contracted the Zika virus, but it's important for the public to understand that a person who has tested positive for the Zika virus then becomes a potential spreader for the virus. So the effort to make sure that there's no mosquitoes around her house is not to make sure that she doesn't contract the Zika virus because she already has it. The issue is that you do not want her to get bitten by mosquitoes and therefore spread the virus around the island. And that's why extra attention was paid to the premises surrounding her living quarters to make sure that there's as few mosquitoes or no mosquitoes around so that she cannot get bitten and therefore spread the virus further around the island. So we don't know exactly where she contracted it. I think it will be difficult to ascertain, but the effort now is to make sure that it doesn't spread any further, that once she's past this transmission phase, that we can try and ensure that it doesn't spread further.
Thank you, Minister Lee.
Bibi, thank you very much for your questions. Andrew Dick, the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning to the Council of Ministers and also those who are listening. Minister Gibson, concerning the budget cuts of the Heineken Regatta, St. Martin Carnival Development Foundation, the Heineken Regatta received word that they are not getting the funds from last year that was in the budget. Can you tell us why government decided this?
Certainly, be happy to explain. There was an agreement executed with Heineken's Regatta relative to what was going to be given to them as a contribution for 2015, which has not been given up to now. That concerns Regatta 2015, which is last year, March. We're now almost in March 2016. So that contribution was not given to them. That contribution now was presented to the Council of Ministers to be paid. That is for 2015. When you peruse the agreement that was existed last year with Henniken's Regatta as to how the funds that were allotted to them would be spent, the focus was that these funds will be spent on marketing of the island and not on operation costs. Since then, the report came in and that the Henniken's Regatta delivered relative to the activities last year, and from it can be seen that the funds that they had requested did not go or was not spent last year on that specific marketing goal that we had in mind. And for that reason, we decided, no, we will not pay that. This year, 2016, this government has allotted a contribution to the regatta. It is not the same amount as last year because of budgetary constraints. It's a little lower, and that will be paid once the necessary steps are taken to execute it.
Now, help me understand, for Heineken Regatta, do you have to have, for the subsidy, do you have to have an accounting firm do the auditing? Does it have to be audited, or it have to be presented by a certified accountant?
The subsidy ordinance, if I'm not mistaken, requires audited statements of expenditures.
Okay. Minister Kidding Dongo, of course, Member of Parliament in the Netherlands, Mr. Bosman, he made a statement in today's paper about your willingness to meet. He called your comments that cynical. So your response to that, if you got a chance to read it.
Sorry. This is his opinion. I don't know where he got it from. I have never seen him. We never met, so I don't know where he got that information. I cannot give any answer.
Okay, but you plan to still, because he says that you should have plans for the prison and for the police, and you shouldn't leave someone in Holland, well, a member of parliament in Holland do that.
No, that is intention. If you want someone to help you, you have to know which area you need help, and that is going to be done. Before I go to Holland, I need to know what we really need. I'm going to have a conversation with Rohan and Mr. Carl John from the police force, and together we're going to make the plans to see what we really need in which area.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for your questions. Stephen Cirillian, PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Good morning to you, Cedric.
Good morning.
How many questions do I have?
3 questions, sir.
3 questions. Council of Ministers, good morning. Mr. Lee, welcome. Upon taking up your post as Minister of VSR, you traveled to Cuba where you met with medical professionals. Any follow-up to those meetings?
We've been in communications with the company in Cuba that provides the medical services from a tourism perspective. Discussions are ongoing. We actually have invited them to the island so that they can see the facilities, what our local situation is here, so that we can have a more fruitful discussion, that they understand what our needs are and what our plans for expansion are and how we can better integrate. And in addition to that, I've also forwarded the contacts to SZV so that SZV can get in touch with the Cuban authorities in terms of trying to negotiate contracted rates for referrals. So both steps are still in progress.
Any timeline as to when they're going to be here?
We did invite them for February. They had problems to come for February, so it is for as soon as possible.
As it pertains to the Zika virus, obviously you're collaborating with the Ministry of Education to better inform our general public. It is now reported that the virus can be spread through sexual activities. Is it your intention as the Minister of VSR to at least have town hall meetings to better educate the masses as it pertains to the virus?
I think the approach is a right approach in terms of communication strategy with the population. I think our approach is towards the homeowners associations. Most of the areas of the island, in some shape or form, have homeowners associations. And so I think what you refer to as a town hall meeting would really refer more towards touching base with the homeowners associations. I don't know if we'll be able to do sort of community, bring in everyone from that neighborhood, or if it would be really more identify a group of leaders in the community that we then educate and inform, and that they take that message further into the community in terms of deepening the reach of that message. I think that will be our approach. But we're looking at multiple avenues. For example, we've contacted hardware stores because we'd actually like to get the salespeople from hardware stores to come in and understand better in terms of preventative measures how they can advise clients, because very often clients who are looking to do things in their yard will go to the hardware store. So things like the mosquito dunks, which are bacterial larvicides that will help to eliminate mosquitoes in sitting water, in like ponds, in where there's pools of water sitting, those are materials that are sold at the hardware stores. But when I went probably a month ago, not all of the staff was familiar with what items they sold. So we're really trying to broaden our educational process from multiple avenues.
This question is to anyone who feels like answering. The Supervisory Board of GEB has been asked to tender their resignation as of Thursday, the 25th. I take it that Mr. Gibson, you're more suitable to answer the question. Do you have any knowledge as to why they were asked to tender their resignation? And if not, if they don't, what happens from here on?
They were asked to tender resignation because the Council of Ministers no longer has confidence in the board to conduct themselves in such a way that is beneficial, that improves the tasks that need to be done at GBE. So we have requested them to tender their resignation. If not, then we will verbalize the reasons in writing and request the Corporate Governance Council for their advice as to whether or not we should proceed to dismiss them.
Thank you.
Stephen, thank you very much for your questions. Second round of questioning begins. Bibi Shaw, SMN News, you have the floor.
I continue on the same trend with Minister Gibson. Was a letter already sent to the Corporate Governance Council with regards to the dismissal of the Supervisory Board of Directors of GEBE?
Not to my knowledge. What I know, it was the first step was to invite the members to resign voluntarily.
Can you at least tell us what are some of the things that caused the Council of Ministers to lose confidence in this board?
It's a series of things. Information of the company is spread on the media left and right. The Council of Ministers does not get the feeling that they are executing their tasks the way it should be. Certain reports that's supposed to be sent timely according to their charter are not being sent, and so there's a whole list of other things.
Minister Kirindongo, I must go back to the justice situation. What's your thoughts? Of course, the Netherlands are hell-bent at trying to get their hands on the Justice Ministry. Now that you're a new minister, you're sitting there maybe a month now, you probably have a little grip on what's going on. What is your view as to how the Dutch, or the Kingdom, is approaching wanting to control the Justice Ministry of St. Martin while not giving St. Martin their stepchild a little bit more monies to sustain that ministry?
I have to say I didn't have so much contact with Dutch of person from Holland. Sorry. I spoke with Minister Plasterk, and he invited me to come over for us to discuss about the 22 million. And next to Mr. Plasterk, I got an invitation from Minister van der Steur, also to meet with him. So that these are the contacts that I have had. So the feeling of how they try to control or something like that, I didn't have that feeling yet. Only what I know is what I have heard before I came in, and the fact that now now that I am invited, I'm gonna see what they have to say and how they want to do it. I didn't have not even communication with the PG, not yet.
Cedric, may I have a follow-up to that very topic? Minister Kirndongo, the persons working within the Justice Ministry, the advisors, and those persons that were advising the former ministers are still the same person. Did you meet with them and get a feedback as to how these discussions have been taking place over the past 2 years?
Today at 2 o'clock, one of the persons who has been informing of advising the minister, I'm gonna have a meeting at 2 o'clock with him.
Thank you very much for your questions, Bibi. Andrew, Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Yes, Minister Lee, the current mediator at the Labor Office, who is that?
The current mediator is Mr. Raphael Bozeman.
And because last time he resigned, but now he went on pension, special contract or?
He actually had a contract that was in place prior to him becoming Minister of VSI. And so he had to relinquish that position when he became Minister of VSI, obviously. And then he still had a balance in the contract, which I believe is valid until about June or so. Don't hold me to the date, but let's say mid-year sometime.
This year.
Yeah, and we're in the process of we will begin the process of selecting a new mediator.
Okay, Minister Kirndongo, the police helicopter, do we have one? No. Any plans?
No.
No, not now.
No. This budget, I don't think so.
And going to the budget now, Minister Gibson, how's the preparations? Are we still meeting the end of the month?
Yes, the meeting is scheduled for the 29th of February in Parliament during the plenary session of Parliament to debate the draft budget that has been submitted. We are in the process of making some changes based on the recommendations made by the CFT, so that those suggestions could be incorporated before the plenary session takes place. So all those things are in process, and the planning that we had for it is on schedule.
Andrew,
Okay.
thank you very much for your questions. Stephen Cirillion, PGA2 Radio, you have the floor.
Minister of Education, good morning to you. Minister, the issue at NEPA, you made mention of the court cases and what have you. How many court cases are pending, and how many, if you may tell us, have been solved or settled?
Good morning. No, I do not have the information at hand, and I do not believe that at this time this information can be divulged, even if I had it. We're really right now focused on a positive way forward, and everything that is in the pipeline will, of course, have to be dealt with. The new board will have an overview of that as soon as they sit, or even before they actually sit in the transition with the remaining members of the old board, who agree, as I said before, to collaborate and cooperate as long as is needed with the new board, because originally there should have been a resignation plan in place so that not all members are leaving at the same time in order to have the continuity. And seeing the circumstances under which, the term is ending soon and they would like to make that transition, they have expressed the need to make that transition. They still remain available, and that is the best we can do under the circumstances. But in remaining positive moving forward, we are focusing on how we will solve the problems, whatever they may be, upon having the new board sit.
And how soon will that new board be installed?
Well, the meeting of the old and new will take place on March 5th, after which they will announce then the actual date that the decision will be taken in that meeting.
Earlier on, you spoke of the teams traveling to Curacao for the Dutch Caribbean Games, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, you have a swimming team traveling to Martinique as well. The 2016 CARIFTA Games to be held in Grenada as of March the 24th to the 28th. St. Martin will be represented. In fact, we are going to see St. Martin taking part in track and field and swimming as well. Have you been able to meet with the different organizations as they prepare for CARIFTA 2016?
No, Stephen, I personally have not met with the organizations. I know for sure of the swimming team taking part in CARIFTA. I have not received the information of the track and field team taking part. That has not been shared with the Department of Sports, but as I said, the Department of Sports continue to reach out to the associations to get that information. There's also the Sports Federation, which has to vet the associations to be able to take part in these international and regional games. So that information is new to me, but we will be looking into which other teams are representing. The only confirmation I have at this time is the swimming federation, the national team. Yes.
Obviously, Miss Pink Shakiba, the silver medalist of last year, will have to defend the crown. That means she will have to be a CARIFTA to do so.
Well, I'm very happy if Shakiba Pink will be representing us. As we know, she's an outstanding distance runner, very young, and she did very well, I believe, was it in Nevis the last time that she ran? St. Kitts St. Kitts Nevis Federation. She really excelled at that time, and her sponsor at the time, I believe it is Guardian Group, invited us at that time. I wasn't even a minister, to honor her. And again, this is where the importance of having that financial injection from the business community really allows our sports athletes and other youth outstanding students to be able to go out there. As you know, the budget is not what we would like it to be able to fund each and every person to the maximum. Most of the foundations and associations submit their request, and based on the availability, government assists in whichever way they can. The question even came to me, Stephen, that if it's a national team, then government must support the entire thing. And I'm, getting that feedback from parents who felt that there's not enough being done. It is a goal and a wish of government to be able to do that. But in order for us to do that, we have to generate funds as a country. We have to be able to get the business community to do their part. And we need the volunteers. We need parents involved. We need those with the skills on island that would not cost, to bring down the cost, because it is an expensive venture. So if Shakiba Pink is representing us, I'm happy to be able to say that we wish her the very best, and we will look into who else is going to represent St. Martin and highlight them as well. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Open up the floor for follow-up questions. Bibi Haj Shaw, you have an opportunity.
Thank you, Cedric. This is new. Minister Gibson, how far are we with the budget? Is everything being finalized for Monday?
Yes, the budget is on track, it's on schedule. We are trying to get all of the information built into the budget that the CFD has requested. Finalizing today all the questions that was asked in Parliament. So I think we're well on our way to start the debate on Monday in the plenary session of Parliament.
Minister Jacobs,
Final question, Bibi, only two. Don't get too excited.
please.
Don't get too excited. Just one more question.
Minister Jacobs, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in the agreement signed with Mr. Brookson when the Emilio Wilson Park was purchased. There was a part of a parcel of land that was supposed to be given to the Charlotte Brookson Academy to build a school. I believe right now Charlotte Brookson needs a parcel of land to build a school. Are you aware of this? Is government doing anything to at least allot a parcel of land to this school? If I look at the Council of Ministers right now, I have you, a former teacher and principal. I have Prime Minister Marlin, a former teacher and principal. I mean, we have lots of educators within our Council of Ministers, and if a school is asking for land, are we going to do the best so that we can give that school land so that our children can be off the streets and be in school?
I have, in my meeting, the last meeting that I held with Charlotte Brookson Academy, they were actively seeking solutions to the land issue or the housing issue that they have. They had received an extension from university, so they have not been kicked out. And government is actively trying to assist in the best way that we can. I have no overview of the land at this point that may or may not be available to grant to any school. Schools that establish and want to execute their purposes usually have to have a business plan. They usually have to have their ducks lined up, basically. The subsidy usually is not asked for with the presupposition that government will fund your housing and all of this. The funding that they do receive pays their rent at this time, and government is willing to assist in whichever ways. We have increased their subsidy as their student population has increased, and we're looking for solutions, but I cannot guarantee any being able to, just grant land at this time. This would set a precedent that others would decide to establish a school, and then government must give them land, and that's a precedent we have to be careful not to set.